Hi, I'm Ken's Perfect Jams, and today we're gonna make some strawberry mint jam. This will be the third strawberry jam that's available on my site. I also have strawberry tequila and strawberry limeade. And the difference of one of the things you have to keep in mind is it's something that I've wanted to share with people for a while whenever they ask me questions about different techniques when making jam. You have to be, whenever you're adding something, if you're not making just a straightforward strawberry jam, if you're adding an accompanying or ancillary flavor like tequila or lime or mango, you have to add it at the right time in order for not only the gelling process to work correctly, but for the flavors to meld in a way that you want them to. You don't want something to overpower something else. You don't want a flavor to disappear. For example, if I was doing strawberry tequila, I'd add the tequila at the end, but close enough to the end where the tequila would cook off, but you would still get the flavor. If I was doing my strawberry limeade, I would actually, as soon as I was finished with cutting up the strawberries, I would do the same thing with the limes, and I would add the strawberries and the lime at the same time during the initial cook before we add the sugar, so that the flavors can meld there, and we could steal a little bit of the pectin from. Well, we're not stealing. It's going to be a marriage made in heaven. But we could take some of the pectin that's with the lime and use that, and that way we won't need as much packaged pectin at the end. But with this one, with the strawberry mint, the mint is such a strong herb, it can overpower very easily. So the best time to add the mint for this particular jam will be at the very end. Once I turn off the heat, before we bottle it, we'll stir in the mint, let it set for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll jar up the jam and we'll process it. Anyway, I'm going to prep the strawberries, and then we'll be back after the strawberries are prepped, and we'll go to the next step. I finished prepping the strawberries, so I have sliced strawberries here. What we have here is your basic ingredients for just a basic strawberry jam. If you go and download a recipe for strawberry jam, you'll see the holy trinity, what you need to gel: strawberries, sugar, acid of some sort. I always use lime juice, and then we'll introduce pectin in a little bit. Since this is a suspension jam, I'm using liquid pectin, and that'll be added at the end. If it was just, if it was more a thick jam, or a jam that didn't have anything else in it, if it was just strawberries, I would do powdered pectin, and we would be adding that first before we add the sugar. But we're going to start off with strawberries, our acid, the lime juice, and most recipes that you see out there, pretty much all recipes you see out there, also call for water. One of my tips, one of the things my grandmother used to do, my suggestion: get an extra pint of fruit and juice it, or if you don't have a juicer, use an immersion blender or a regular blender and puree it. This is strawberry juice. I'm using strawberry juice today instead of water. Now that we've added the sliced strawberries, the strawberry juice, and the lime juice, I'm mixing it thoroughly, and we want to bring it to a rolling boil That's a boil that you can't stir down. So once it starts boiling, stir it. Once you stop stirring, if it boils again, then you're at the right point. If you stir it and it makes the boiling stop, then you want to keep stirring it till it gets to the point where even when you're stirring it, it's still boiling. Okay, so that actually was pretty quick. We're now to the point where we have reached a rolling boil that you can't stir down. So I'm going to stir rather vigorously, change direction. And once I stop stirring, see, it's still boiling. I have slowly added the sugar to the mix, and I'm going to continue stirring. I'll probably stir every 3 to 5 minutes. We want to get to the point where we reach a rolling boil that you can't stir down again. Once that happens, we're going to stir in the pectin, and then the heat will go for another 3 to 5 minutes. And then once we turn off the heat, we'll stir in the mint, and we'll be ready to bottle this jam. We've added the sugar to our jam. It is boiling. It reached a rolling boil that we couldn't stir down. So this is a timed boil where I have a timer set for 12 minutes. Might take as long as 15 minutes. I'd be surprised if it took longer than that. Basically, you want it to get to a temperature of 220 degrees, which is gel state. Once that happens, we'll be adding our liquid pectin, which is raw here, ready to go. I have my scissors. And while that's happening, I'm going to keep stirring, and I'm also getting the mint ready. Okay, so the timer just went off. I gave it 15 minutes, and for us, we're only at 198 degrees, so we're not quite there. So I'll keep stirring and checking, give it another 5 minutes or so. It shouldn't be that much longer. The temperature's climbing pretty quickly. And it's starting to sheet nicely off of the spoon. So, and that's another indicator that you're reaching gelling state. It is time to add the pectin. What I usually do with the liquid pectin, since it's a little tricky to handle, is I'll put it in a glass. I'll cut the tops off first, and then that way I can just pull them out of the glass and add them to the pot with no problem. And see, it is much thicker. So at this point, I'm going to turn off the heat and add the mint, and then we're going to jar it up. You can smell the mint, oh my lord. Okay, I have my jars. I probably have more jars here than I need, but better be safe than sorry. I sanitize my jars in the dishwasher. So these, our dishwasher has a sanitized cycle. So what I do is I run everything in the dishwasher on sanitize right before I bottle. This is not product placement. It's just I love this canning scoop. The beautiful thing about it is that it sits on top of the jar, and if you look at the markings on it, it tells you, depending on the recipe, you'll want to fill it till it's 3/4 from the top, a 1/2 inch from the top, or a 1/4 inch from the top. It varies from recipe to recipe. So I am just very, very partial to this scoop. Anyway, I'm going to get a few of these jars out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to start ladling. And we go to 1/4 inch. And stop. And move to the next jar. Dang. This is gelling beautifully. Water bath for 15 minutes and we're done. And there you have it, a batch of strawberry mint jam. Once they come out of the water bath, you want to let them cool at room temperature. Those of you who are familiar with canning, you know what will happen next. Those of you who are not, if you hear metallic pinging sounds, that's normal, that's perfectly fine. That's the vacuum happening in each one of these jars. When you can, you have the glass jar and you have the nice exposed lid. Canning lids come in two pieces. There's a lid and a band. The lid has a sealing agent on the bottom of it. When you put it on the jar and hold it in place, once heat hits it, it softens, and as the steam escapes, it locks itself to the glass. The band holds it in place. Once the jar is sealed, once a vacuum is formed, technically you can remove the band if you want, and the lid will be fine, and it'll sit there, and it'll be okay. But I don't see any reason to remove them. My grandmother never removed them. So once I can something, I leave the bands on until I'm ready to open the jar. Once these jars are processed and the vacuum is in place, it'll pull the lid in, and there's like this little button on top that you can feel. Once the vacuum's in place, then you won't be able to depress the top of the jar. If you can depress the top of the jar, then it means that it didn't seal properly. The contents are still fine, they're still edible, just put them in the fridge. They're not shelf ready, but they are still edible. So I would just put them in the fridge and eat those as soon as possible. The ones that do set properly are shelf ready, or shelf stable, I should say, not shelf ready, but shelf stable for 18 to 24 months. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If there are any jams, jellies, or preserves that you'd like to see me make, please let me know in comments below and I'll add them to the list for future videos. And if you liked today's video, please hit the like button and hit subscribe so that I can continue to visit you every Wednesday with new videos as they're released.